Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brainwash to be Broke. I have another amazing guest over here. We had a really incredible conversation before we just jump into the show, and he is really powerful person. He's been in business for a while. He's got a major success when it comes to helping people and doing stuff when it comes to like local businesses and so on. So there is like really cool. It's a really cool opportunity to have him here and share his knowledge and his story and so on. So I'm really interested in like where we're gonna go with this conversation and see, all the perspective, not just online but also offline. So, but without further ado, welcome to the show, Team Hoover. What's up, brother?
Adam, thank you for having me.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Like this is gonna be really powerful. The way that how we actually uh, talk through certain things is really interesting, and seeing what you becoming literally parent in so young age. That's another thing. But also being in a business for since super young age, it's really rare. It's not something that and like everybody would do. So I'm really pumped to have you here and like having this conversation with you. So let's dive right in with the first question, and for everybody who don't know you and never told, never saw you, never met you. Who are you? Who are you, dude? Like, tell us the story behind who you are.
Well, I was raised in a small town in Arkansas. It's just surrounded by fields and swamp water and not really anything. So there's not a lot to expand your mind. And so you're raised up, you're kind of caged in. But my dad was an entrepreneur, and so at a young age, he was a mechanic, and so I wanted to be a mechanic. And so at 16, I started having people bring their vehicles to my mom's house, and I was doing mechanic work under her garage, and that kind of morphed into different businesses. And whenever I was 19, a hurricane hit down in New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina, and my brother-in-law, which was just my friend at the time, he cut trees, and he said, "Let's go down there and cut trees." So I went down there with him, and I ran into another guy that I knew, and he was roofing houses. And so I was like, "Man, can you show me how to do this?" So I worked with him for 2 weeks, made enough money to buy tools, and started a crew there. And that's where my first business started. And it's been this October be 21 years strong. We've been going, and so with that, I was a young father. So at 19, I become a father to my first child, and I become a single father. A single father that had a business and trying to figure out, at 19, you're trying to figure out life. You don't know how to be a father. You don't know how to be a business owner. And so it was a lot. And I tell anyone who asks, like, I wouldn't change it because the trajectory was forced, but it forced me to become the man I am today and have the skills I am today. And at such a early age, when everyone else was out having fun and partying, I was at home studying business and learning how to change diapers and take care of a kid. And so that's morphed into, what I do these days, where I run my construction company and also a coaching consulting company where I help business owners and mostly service industry. I help them to kind of get out of the bottleneck and get out of their way and balance their life.
That's powerful. Yeah, love it, love it. Other than that, let's jump back into the beginning, basically, of your entrepreneurship, and even like maybe even prior of that. How did you grow up? How did you grow up? Like, what was it like, in a school and so on? Like, how did you felt in school, and like how was the life back then? Living with parents and so on.
And so I had, from the outside looking in, I had a very rough childhood. So my mother and father split up when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and they both struggled afterwards. My mom struggled because there was four of us and she was trying to raise us, and my dad struggled because he lost his wife of 15 years, and it led my dad in the direction. He was a very successful entrepreneur, and he got introduced to drugs and he started doing drugs. And with that, we moved around a lot, and so I was every year I was in a different school. It was hard to meet friends. I got bullied a lot, and whenever I finally become stationary, it was hard to have friends and do anything because by this point my dad was actually a drug dealer. He wasn't just doing drugs anymore, and he he developed a name for himself and not so much of a good name. And the problem with that is I had the same name as him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, kids couldn't come to my house and hang out, although my dad didn't live with us. So it was rough. And so I decided to move back in with my dad when I was 15, and which I shouldn't have at that point, but I wanted to spend time with him, and spending time with him was being around the drug game and all the stuff that went with that. And so finally at 16, I decided I couldn't do it anymore, so I dropped out of school, got my GED, and enrolled in college. And at 16, I went to technical college. Then I come back home and spent a few years trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and that's what led me into what I do now.
Interesting. Okay, so tell me from there. I know like the childhood is very very tough when it comes to, of course, what you experience, but like I know that there is lots of people that will relate to that, like because like the life is really um structured right from the beginning of our basically life. Pretty much it's a mess, right? Because we don't know what we don't know, and it's like the whole system is basically designed that way to either like steer us to be working hard and like literally like um fit into that um status quo, basically, like when where everybody is gonna follow the same path, right? Or we going to do something completely different, which is figure out the life based on um what do we think is the best way, right? So it seems like that you never been actually that way, like I'm gonna follow all of those people that's going to be like and following the American dream type of thing, like we're like finish studying, get a job, work freaking 60 years, and then like maybe retire or so. I skip some steps, right? But still, it seemed to me that you wanted always something more than just being the average, right?
Yeah.
So
And so
what was the thing that drive you, or why you've always like what was the thing that you wanted, or like yeah, what drives you basically when it comes to
Yeah.
that?
Well, so I'll preface this. I want to add this in because both my parents are amazing people, and my dad's doing really good in life now. And your parents do the best that they can. I learned that being a parent, that we do the best that we can, and we can only work with the knowledge we have. So, um, when I talk about my childhood, it was rough, but I had really good parents. And but to your point, in the beginning, I had a point to prove. Everyone just labeled me as the drug dealer's son, and so I started my life and my business with a chip on my shoulder and something to prove. And instead of just doing what the status quo is and going to school and having the white picket fence and three kids or two and a half kids, whatever they say it is, I knew that I was meant for more. And I when I was pushing, when I was trying businesses before I started my construction business, and I was trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. Everyone discouraged me. My friends, my family, teachers, they're no one was ever helpful. They just made me feel like I couldn't do it. And so I had to prove to them that I could. And the beginning, I would say probably 7, 8 years of my career, I was proving people wrong. That's what fueled me
Mhm.
every day, was proving people that I could be what I said I could be.
That makes sense. Yeah, I feel like because like when it when it comes to really the the thing that like what people are talking about, like they're trying to push you, like put you down and so on, like trying to um keep you small and don't do something that is not like it's not like how we've been raised and what we've been told and so on. So there's going to be always those people that trying to keep you down and so on. And for me it was exactly the same thing. Like I wanted to be different, right? I wanted to be successful. Like for my kids, for example, I didn't want them to experience the same struggles that I did, right? And so on. Like it's this is the whole purpose of it. Like when it comes to money, yes, of course we want to have great life. Right? The money is the currency of achieving it. Like when you think about it, you don't really need a lot of money to live a great life. Am I correct?
Right.
Right. When it comes to like money and so on, like you can live really really great life with like 20K a month, and you would be like, like more than that. You just don't, it really get into the point that if you have only the drive, which is the money, it's not gonna last long, right? And I think like what I can feel and what we've been having chat about, like you have the drive. So I don't think that money is the thing for you that actually like keeps you doing it. Is there something different than that? So what is that actually for you?
So, like I said, the first 7, 8 years was proving a point. That's what my whole
Uh-huh.
business was built around. And then um, at that point, it was more my kids.
Mm,
Every decision I made, everything I did was to provide a good life for them. And so, as parent, like as kids, when we struggle, we always grow up and say we want our kids to have a better life.
right.
And so that's what I did. I did everything that I did was like what school district was I going to be in to be the best until I realized that, I was their best teacher versus keeping them in school. And so I would say it morphs throughout your career and your life, you're going to have different phases where different things drive you. And because, now that my kids are grown, I don't make decisions around, oh, is this best for my kids? I more think about legacy and what I want to leave my kids and my grandkids, and now it's more centered. My business is around helping my employees grow and the people that I work with grow. And I would say that when I used to want to be seen, and now I feel like I won't. So I'll give you an example. Like when we do projects in my construction company, and the people praise me and they're like, Tim did such a great job. I redirect it and praise my employees. And I'm like, no, my guys did such a great job. And so it's more like, at this point in my life, it's more about growing other people and showing them their self-worth versus myself.
That's really cool. I love it. Yeah. That's so really powerful because like if you think about it, it's true. It's 100% true. Is you know it's so funny because like most of the people when they start the businesses and so on, they think that they have to be the smartest one, the best ones, the people that's gonna drive the growth of the business and so on. Well, you are pretty much wrong in my opinion, because you have to be really good at leading the team and like really be a leader, not a type of boss, I would say, right? Because like if you have really great relationship and you know how to lead those people and like how to give them and show them that they really do a good job and so on, they will be always standing behind you whenever it comes, whatever it comes, right? So it seems like that you have this type of experience, or you are trying to do that in your companies, and you're probably even like helping other people do that same, right?
Yes, I feel like we have the phases in our businesses. And in the beginning, you don't need to know it all. All you have to do is have the confidence in yourself to learn what you need to know. And so many people that have imposter syndrome, they they know enough to have a business, but they don't feel confident enough to sell their product or sell their service for themselves. And I was always the type of person that I would go to a job and these people would explain all this complex project they wanted. And I had an idea, but I didn't have no clue how to do it. So, but I was like, absolutely, I can do that. And then I went home and I figured it out. But it was the confidence I had in myself, my own ability to figure it out is what sold the jobs, not my experience at the time, not my intelligence. It was my confidence that I knew no matter what, I would figure it out. And I think that's what's important early on in business is having confidence in yourself to figure it out.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. Yeah, when it comes to confidence, it's really really important, right? Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you would you say that's one of the things that really like stops most people starting businesses or being even successful in business?
Yeah, as far as the confidence, so it can go too far. People because there isn't any room for ego in the business because if you go too far and be too confident, then that ego might put you in a position where you actually can't figure it out. So you got to have that balance where you believe in yourself enough, but also you're smart enough to face the reality of you may not can do everything, but
Mm,
just working inside of the realm of this is what I can do and I will figure it out and I'm confident in my own ability and in myself. And that's where I feel like a good start for people would be.
awesome. So when it comes to your expertise and so on, like what you can see that most people are really struggling on when it comes to when it comes to your expertise, and like um yeah, do you have something completely clear that you can see that people are like it's repetitive pretty much like in every area of when it comes to anybody who you talk to and so on?
Yeah, there's I mean it comes down to that confidence and more of a self-belief. And so I'll say across the board, everyone I work with and my employees included, I'll give you an example. I show up on a job site and there will be very experienced people that I hired. And when I'm there, they're like, where do you want me to put this item? Or what do you want me to do with this? And in my head, I'm like, you're the professional. I hired you to do this. But instead of them coming up and saying, "Hey Tim, here's where we're at. This is what we're doing." That's a fully confident person, and that's someone who, is being successful in their own right. When the other people I see that are still struggling in their business, the biggest character I see about them is that they don't believe in themselves, and that's across the board. That even if they have all the experience and they're super intelligent, they just lack the self-belief.
That's very interesting. Yeah, because like I think it's not just even like in the offline space, but it's also in the online space. There is lots of people who are really struggling with the self trust and so on. Where do you think that this belief type of thing is actually coming from? Is it like from school or the way that we've been raised, or what do you think?
I feel like for a lot of people, it comes from the way they were raised there because a lot of our programming is, happens earlier in life. It's what our parents believe in, what our family
Mm,
believe in, what our teachers believe in. And a lot of people move into their adult life and they never recheck their programming.
mm,
They never question their beliefs. And I encourage people all the time to say, when you have a thought, stop and say, is that my belief or is that someone else's belief? Like,
mhm.
do I believe this truly or did my mom believe this? I think that as we all know, that most schools only program us to learn how to be good factory workers, and they don't train. I mean, there are some good teachers, but for the most part, there aren't free thinkers. They don't allow you to be a free
Yep,
thinker, and if you
yep.
are, then you're labeled, attention deficit, or they have a label for every. If you work outside of their box, then uh, there you get a label. So these people move into life and they get training. They go to technical schools, they go to college, and they learn how to do a skill. So they're confident in their skill, but they lack that self confidence because they just never taught that it was okay to believe in yourself.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced like when it comes to school and so on? Like, have you been ever called in front of the class? I mean, like when you are tested, basically, when you're going. I don't know if that's the correct expression, but like You're going to the whiteboard basically, and they are literally testing you in front of the class.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, have you ever thought about how that system, like, or the way they do it, basically fucking up like the brains of the people, like the kids, completely from like if like right from there, like because that's
Yeah.
literally destroying your confidence completely, because like you are tested in front of the other, like instead of the in front of the class, and if you do something wrong, you say something wrong, they're gonna punish you by laughing,
Yeah.
by decrease, basically. It's insane. Like I don't understand. Like well, I didn't understand it that time, but I know that is like for me that was a huge problem. Like when it comes to then talking in front of other people, it's still is probably like a huge problem when it comes to not that a huge problem anymore, because like I'm working on it all the time, right? I'm on here having conversation with amazing people like you, and like having this experience which trains my brain and my like how I present myself and so on, right? And like that's one of the really big differences or big shifts that I experienced. But do you believe that like the schooling system and everything, if you think about it from today, who you become and what did you experience, did it actually give you something in like in your to your life, like being a better person or something? What do you yeah what's your
Well,
thoughts on
I would say schooling fucked me up.
that?
Besides the bullying, there was teachers that are bullies, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, the whole whiteboard situation,
Yeah.
they teach you that your voice, like if you speak up, you're going to be either chastised or punished for it, one of the two. And so we get taught like if we have a good idea, if we think we know, we should just shut up. Because
Yeah.
if we speak up, then it's going to be a lot more painful for us than it would be. And so yeah, I was pretty much boxed in, and um I just for a very long time I haven't had confidence in our schooling systems. Not that I don't have confidence in our teachers, because we have some really good teachers out there, but they have to go by what the government says that they have to go by. And so that's why whenever my kids were on, in it was fourth and seventh grade, I took them all out and homeschooled them,
Mm-hmm.
and gave them the ability to choose and grow what they were good at, and not
Mm-hmm.
saying, hey, you have to learn this. Because I actually moved from Arkansas to Texas just because Texas had the ability for me to take my kids completely out of the school district. I didn't even have to stay
Wow.
with a state funded homeschool, so we was able to completely create our own curriculums. And so yeah, I would say that some people go to school and they have a very valuable time, and then for the most of us, we go to school and it's just absolutely terrible.
Yeah. 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 That's yeah, that's really interesting. Like, so you saying that there is no like all the countries that are not supporting actually like homeschooling and so on. I didn't know that actually.
And so each state has their own. If you wanted to homeschool, everything changed during COVID because now they have online learning or distance learning, whatever. But for the longest, you had to, um, if you pulled your kid out of school, you still had to give them a state-based homeschool curriculum. So it was
Hmm.
the same thing, but Texas was one of the states that was like, hey, all you have to do is teach your kid Texas history and how to be a good person, and the
Interesting.
rest you figure out. Yeah.
Interesting. Are you teaching your kids about how money works, like how actually, or have you been taught by your parents or anybody how money works, or you had to figure it out?
Didn't um, I didn't learn anything until I got older. So to the point of you talking about the whiteboard situation. So I
Yeah.
had, by the time I got out of school and started my business, I had very bad social anxiety because I was scared to speak up.
Yeah.
And so I actually hired my dad to talk to the homeowners that I was doing jobs for, so I wouldn't have to talk to
Interesting.
them.
Okay. Okay.
And so it took me years of self-study to learn about money and basically everything you have to know to, whether you own a business or just to survive. And so, yeah, I was very adamant about teaching my kids from a very young age. They had their own debit cards. They were taught how to budget. They were taught about taxes and how big of a scam they are. And, you know, I try
Yeah.
to really inform them. My daughter, my 21-year-old daughter, just moved into her own place about 4 months ago, and like she come over for dinner recently, and she is a manager of a retail company now, and
Uh-huh.
she was telling me that her car's paid for. She has $11,000 saved up in the bank, and just like basically all these things that inadvertently she learned from spending time with me homeschooling, and I think allowing them to learn on their own. And now she's so self-sufficient. She has more money in savings at 21 than most people do that's worked for a very long time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, people don't talk about money at all. And that's like how you can see like the population, like the world is so dumb about it. It's just so crazy to me. Like how this world can survive if we have so dumb generations when it comes to money and operating with money, because like to yeah, it's just that this is like another rabbit hole that we could go for, like because like oh my gosh. But I want to bring the point to when you get into business and so on. Was there something like that you had to figure out along the way that actually like stop you, or like you had to rewire your way of thinking, or how you've been taught and so on? Like, how was the process and what was it actually about?
It was every day. Every day I had to restart, because we even when you start a business, we're still running off our outdated software, our parent software, and a lot of people when they start businesses, they ask the people that they trust, their
Mhm.
parents or their friends or maybe a family friend, what they think, and they get their advice. When in reality, that's really stupid because these people, for one, unless they already do what you're doing, they don't have the information you need. Just because you trust them doesn't mean that they're going to give you the best advice because most people are giving you advice from their level of fear and their level of comfortability, whether it comes to spending money or taking risk. And so a lot of time we get discouraged or we get very bad advice taking it from someone who has no idea what we're doing. So in the process, in the beginning, I was taking advice from people around me, and it was terrible. And
Mhm.
so for the first 7 or 8 years, I struggled because what I did, I created a job for myself. And so,
Mm.
and that's where people screw
Okay,
up is they
what do you
create a
what do
job.
you mean? Yeah, what do you mean by created a job? Yeah, that's
So
a really
there's two
big concept
different,
too. Yeah.
yeah, two different ways that, like people, they create a job or they create a business. And one you work on, one you work in, right?
Hmm.
And so I created a high paying job, one that I went and stressed out and struggled and learned. And it was very valuable because I spent 7 years learning all these things. But uh, there are easier ways to do that. And I figured that out. 8 years in, it's about when social media marketing was happening. And I saw this guy, he did a video, and I was like, this guy seems like he knows what he's talking about. So I remember I spent $9,000 to go to his little event. There was like three people there. And
Wow.
but I he taught me the value how valuable it was to create a business that you own versus one that just a job. So from that day on, I started creating a business and employees and systems and everything that would allow me to have a company that I could grow and not a job that I'm stuck in repetitively forever because so many people they started what they think is a business and it's really just a high paying, sometimes not high paying, just a job that they get to go to. And it's until you figure out that that's not the correct way to do it. Most of the time that is either finding someone in your industry or hiring a coach or consulting company that's in the industry to help you figure out how to do that.
Yeah, 100%. So you basically you had to rebuild certain things, right? That's what you're trying to say. You had to rebuild and or change the way that you think about the business actually, because like it seems like that um you had to go through that because like it even yeah, it seems to me like that we as humans, when we are taught in the school, is like we have the all power over like how we are the best basically because you can trust yourself, so you should do it yourself on your own and so on, like do not build the team and so on. And that's tying back into that team, like how you building the team right now and so on. So is that what you're trying to say? That even the system is like pretty much set it up that way that we shouldn't be like multiplying with and bringing more people, but we should be just the one person. This is like the employee mentality type of thing, because like it seems to me that you went through a lot when it comes to, you had to pretty much even rebuild the way you've been thinking of how business is actually run, right? Like because it seems to me that you actually built a trap, and then you
Yeah,
had to rebuild it to actually be a business that actually like fit into your way of living, right? And most of the
yeah,
people, that's what you've been saying, are having it from the wrong perspective, right? They building basically a job for them, higher
yeah.
paying job, because like, but there is more responsibilities, right, than just that. So um would you think, or do you can you like how you can you see something like that is like directly correlating between the employee mentality and how we like how you started your first business, that was like something inside of it that actually made this whole mishmash, basically, that it turned up into something that is not actually working the way that you want it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say that when you start a business, a lot of people are wanting to escape the grind or the 9 to 5 or whatever, and working 40 hours a week, when in reality you go and work 80 hours a week. And um but you have to, so especially this younger generation, they go into starting a business and they think that they have to have it all figured out. And you don't
Yeah.
have to have it figured out. You get to learn as you go, and that's the beauty of it. But people, they social media is great, and but it has really distorted what it's like to be a business owner, entrepreneur, because there's so many videos of, people sitting on the beach driving Lamborghinis and portraying to all these young people that that's what, like, you don't have to do anything. You just make Facebook videos, which is true for some people, but they have a distorted view of what it's like to find a path and figure it out as you go. But I would say that the thing that where people get trapped is that they don't grow themselves, right? They don't invest in themselves, invest in the business, and people start making money and they start spending that money,
Mm.
and they start living a lifestyle and doing all these things, and they become the on the outside, like what people perceive on social media as a successful entrepreneur. In reality, they're literally just making money to spend money. And I would say if someone went into business and just know that the first couple years it's going to suck and you're going to be broke because you need to pour all that money back into growing that business, it's going to be hiring people and building systems and losing money to learn how to make more money. And it's just, I think it's a process of knowing that it's going to be hard and you're going to have to lower your standard of living for a few years. And but people struggle with that because when as I was saying, the trap they fall into is they start making more money than they have usually, and they start spending that money faster than they can, invest in the business themselves. So they have to keep doing the same things over and over to keep making that money, and you never get out of that grind.
100%. Have you seen something like that you would, or have you find something that would recommend to people who are like starting in their business, or they are in the business, something that they should be focusing on? Let's start like yeah, let's start with the people who are starting a business, because I think there would be a difference. So for those people who starting a business, what would be something that you would recommend like to focus on first, so they're not going to have to go through that like the whole shit and so on? Like either way, I think it's like yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you're just starting a business, so there's different views around this, but I would say get the basics down. That's get a LLC or S corp, and that's first off is finding someone that can kind of advise you on that. It's pretty cheap to do that. Find out whether you need insurances and find out what basically all the basics of being a legal business. And that because I feel like if you start the correct way and grow, you have more room to scale versus if you start kind of on the side and you keep rolling with it, then you have to stop and revamp your whole business. So I would say number one is create a legal business entity, and two is find someone. There's so many people in so many businesses that just want to help you grow. Again, that's another thing social media has distorted. People think that you have to pay an online coach to grow. And it's good if that person has what you want, but if you're starting out and you're broke and you don't have a lot, there's so many people like there. I can't tell you how many people that ask me questions and it makes me feel good because I can help them. I'm not charging them money to help them, but the point of that is if you're starting, find someone who is doing what you want to do, not a completely different business, but in the same business industry, and ask their advice on where to go. And that would be the advice I would give to the person just starting out.
Hmm. And for the person who is already in business, what would you tell them, like when it comes to your expertise?
Well, if you're already in business, depending on what year you're in, I would say first off, understand that in the beginning phases of business, that I would say the first 5 years, there's no such thing as work-life balance. But trying to do everything at one time, pick one thing. And if you want to grow a company, just know that your relationships are going to suffer. The other parts of your life are going to suffer. And that's where, you know, like for me, what I do in my coaching business, I go in and help people solve this problem. A lot of people under the influence of believing that there is a such thing. And if there is, that's fine. You could grow. You're going to grow a lot slower. But also systems. Systems are so important. That's what makes a business replicable. That's how you grow and scale. Like if you figure something out, make that a system and keep repeating that
Hmm.
and grow off that. So again, I've met so many people and like we do an audit of their business and I'm like, what like show me, how you do this. And they can't. They have no system because it's all in their head. Whenever you have your business plan and your systems in your head, your employees can never be bought into your business because they have no idea what they're doing. They just show up and work. And so building systems and focusing on one thing at a time is probably the best thing that you can do in beginning stages of business.
Really cool. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, brother. That was awesome. I really enjoy it. Before I let you go, where people can find you to connect with you or so if they need help and so on.
So on Facebook, I use my personal profile and I post information and business related stuff on there. And we have a website that's under construction right now, but it's livealchemy.com. That's LIVE. And then alchemy is ALCHIMIE.
Very cool. Very cool. And for those people who's listening and so on, like, tell us what is your vision into the future, basically, like when it comes to your business. What do you like? Who do you trying to help and so on, like so people can, if they can, people can relate to it and so on, like.
So my focus into the future is creating a movement, like something I don't want to say a code they live by, but it's basically a set of standards that people live by, and that's what alchemy is. And we help the entrepreneur, the person who is stuck in their life, and again, like I was talking about their bodies. Maybe they don't have the body they want. They have a good business, and or maybe they don't have the relationship they want. They have a good body. Like we help show them whenever you get to a certain point in your business how to create the systems in place to create that balance in your body, mind, and business. But also we take that business and show you how to scale that to have the ability to have freedom. Because for me, like what I do, I don't do for money anymore. I do for time freedom. And so the money allows me that time freedom to travel and to help people. And so that's where I'm headed to.
It's awesome. I love it. Yeah, I'm really big too on traveling and so on. The time freedom is so big. Yeah, especially when you're growing up with, in the environment that everybody like everything is so fast, like they're trying to, they don't have the time to actually be with you, with your kids and so on. Like it's like crazy. Either way, thank you so much, brother. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing all the knowledge and the journey that you went through, and we will see you guys in the next episode.